This week on the Digital Coffee, Facebook says, read before you share. It's going to be easier to make pretty Instagram story ads, and WhatsApp are pushing that privacy policy update. All that and more after this. Good morning. Oh, I've got the wrong mug in my hand. Let's do that again. Good morning, and welcome to the Digital Coffee. This is your weekly dose of digital marketing and social media news for small business. My name is Amanda Webb, and you are very welcome to my show. If you are watching on Facebook, if you leave a comment, I will send you automatically by messenger a copy of the Digital Coffee newspaper, which means all these stories, you get to links to read a bit more. You'll get a summary of what I said. So do comment if you watch that. If you're watching on YouTube, you'll see a link where you can sign up to get the Digital Coffee newspaper in future by email. And if you're wondering, what should I comment, Amanda? How will I get this newspaper? You can tell me. If you're a regular user, regular watcher, you'll know. What's in your mug? Have you had tea? Have you had coffee? Are you on peppermint tea? A nice glass of water, perhaps. Let me know what's in your mug. Or you could answer my question of the week. And the question of the week is, do you always read an article before you share it? I have to admit, sometimes, as much as I'd want to say, yes, of course I do. Sometimes I don't. And if none of that, just say hello. Just say hello. Like Lee has. Good morning to Lee. She's got a coffee and it's wet and glum in Llandudno. I'm trying to say it in an Irish accent. And you always read to fact check before sharing anything, which is a throwback to when she worked in the Foreign Office. Bianca says yes, of course. It's all right to say if you don't, because occasionally I don't. Usually because I know it's a trusted source or because the headline's funny. So things like Waterford Whispers News, for example. I'm not sure I ever clicked through to any of those articles. The reason I was sharing it is because the headline is funny and people will find that amusing. And, that was because I knew the publication. I knew it was satire. I haven't seen Waterford Whispers News in my news feed for a long time, so that tells you a lot about what Facebook is doing. But anyway, we're not talking about that just yet. No, let's look at the news.
You're watching the Digital Coffee with Amanda Webb.
So I've asked the big question, do you read before you share on Facebook? And Facebook are following. I am going to put this on pause for a second. Will you hang around for a second, because I can see the postman. He's walking up the path. He's got a big parcel in his hand. He won't be able to get it in the letterbox. 2 minutes, I'll be back. Thank you for staying. Thank you for staying if you did stay. Always happens at the wrong time. Right, let's start again. Facebook is following Twitter's lead by asking, when you go to share a link, if it's just posted on Facebook and you click the share button, it's going to add a prompt that will say, are you sure? Are you sure you want to share this right now? And you can got the option. You can say, yeah. Actually, I do. It says you haven't read it. You go, well, I do want to share it. Or you've got the option to cancel and go ahead and read this. So from a business point of view, what does this mean? Well, it could mean two things. If you get a lot of shares on your content, it could mean that you will get fewer shares, because when people are prompted, they'll go, oh yeah, I just want to share it. I haven't got time to read it now, so I'm not going to. And, I think this is more relevant on Twitter, because sometimes you will get more retweets of your content than you will get click-throughs. The second thing is, if people aren't sharing, it's going to reduce the size of your audience, because if they're not sharing, you're not reaching extra people. But on the plus side, people will be encouraged to click through, to actually look at the content, to actually read it before they share it. And that could be a good thing. I think there's going to be a knock-on effect for pods. So if you don't know what I'm talking about with pods, this is when a group of businesses will get together, or a group of creators will get together and agree to share one another's content. And it's hassle in a pod to even do that, right? So now it's just putting another piece of friction in the way to actually go and share that content. And it's going to start putting the guilt on you that you're doing this thing. So from that point of view, if you're using pods, I'm not sure they're a good idea anyway. The jury is out on that on Facebook. But if you're using pods, it could affect you there too. I do think it's a good move from Facebook. Obviously, it's one of those things. They are stealing this from Twitter. They are following Twitter's lead on this. It's a good way to possibly stem the spread of fake news. But on the other hand, I was kind of thinking, sometimes with fake news, if you're invested in that narrative, when you go and read that article, you're probably still going to share it. I don't know. We'll see how it pans out. Good morning to Deirdre, who is watching on Facebook. I see a word there that just has me craving. I have to move this because I have buttons covering it up. Cadbury's, a wee cap of Cadbury's. Oh, it is chocolate day. It is Friday. I'm going to have chocolate later on. Yes, you do read articles before you share. You are all very vigilant people. Very vigilant. Well done.
Hey, it's Andy at Content Cal here, and you're watching The Digital Coffee with Amanda Webb.
Now, for those of you that use Facebook advertising, when you set up an ad on Facebook, it is automatically sent out to all the placements that Facebook offer. So you've got Facebook in the feed, you've got the Facebook sidebar, as if anyone looks at that anymore. You've got the Facebook stories, then you've got Instagram stories, Instagram feed. Then you've got audience network. But the downside of this is that, you would have created an image for, say, the Facebook feed or the Instagram feed, and it might be square or slightly portrait. But then they convert that into a story placement. And what they do is they take that image, they put it slap bang in the middle of the frame. They put some ugly color behind it. They take the text that you've written, they make it into a really ugly, bold text and throw that underneath. It's not pretty. It's a shortcut. It's handy because it can be difficult to create specifically for stories because the stuff you need to put on that, your text isn't going to appear unless you use this format. But it ain't pretty. It really ain't pretty. But Facebook are introducing something new where you will be able to customize those story formats, not by cropping, which is something they already have, but a bit like when you create videos within the Facebook advertising interface, you'll be able to choose a template. It will put your image in. See, look, it's not in the middle of the frame anymore. It's at the top. You'll be able to actually write in your call to action. You'll be able to write in some text. So now your story part of your Facebook ads will actually look pretty nice, and it could encourage more conversions. I do tend to go with those ugly ads because very often I'm relying on the businesses to give me the creative and explaining everything. Oh, you need to have a swipe up link. You need to put some text on this. That's a lot to make them do. Plus, obviously that text isn't going to be readable by a screen reader, so it's not accessible. So I think this is a really good update, and it will make our lives as advertising managers so much easier. Don't forget to let me know in the comments if you've ever shared an article you haven't read thoroughly. I want to know about it. Or just tell me what you're drinking. Bianca, what are you drinking? Deirdre, you told me chocolate. Chocolate.
Hi, I'm Carmel Siri, and you're watching Digital Coffee with Amanda Webb.
You may have noticed that a lot of social media users these days will put pronouns in their profile. These are the pronouns that they wish to be identified by when you address them on social media. And you may be wondering, why are people doing that when, they are born into a specific gender and they are using the pronouns that fit that? So like her and she, he and him, and then you've got other options including they and them. Why would people add the ones that you would expect them to add? Well, the reasoning behind it is that by adding pronouns to your profile, we are normalizing this. We are normalizing the respect. I would say it's the respect to other people who wish to be identified in a different way, who wish to be identified by they and them. I think it's good, but I haven't done it. And I was having a chat on Twitter Spaces recently about why, what was it that was holding me and some of the other people back? And I think we felt that by adding pronouns, we were making a political statement. But the news is that Instagram is following LinkedIn's lead, and it is allowing you, it's got a special place now. Oh, that's the wrong button. It's got a special place now on your profile where you can add your preferred pronouns. And I love that the tech companies are doing this. I love this because it's not just a bunch of advocates or going out there and saying, this is what we're doing. This is the tech companies saying, look, we're allowing this to happen, which makes it a lot easier for you and for me to add pronouns without having to get into a political discussion. I think it's good, but the big question is, should businesses use pronouns? And really, I think that depends on how you market your business. So, for example, if you are a business who is marketed under a logo, so this would be a larger business, maybe you have several people managing your accounts, the logo is your business. In many ways, it would seem odd if you added pronouns because you've probably got people of all genders updating your social media accounts. So it would seem wrong, even if you have created a brand personality. You know, very often I haven't considered whether my brand personality is male or female. That's not part of my brand personality. Like my doppelganger, for those of you that know what I'm talking about, is Dave Gorman, and he's a man. So in the case where your logo is front and center, I don't think you need to add pronouns. I do think if it is yourself that is front and center, and if you want to be seen to be respectful to people who identify as any gender, that it is a good idea to add your pronouns and be part of this movement. I don't know if you agree. Maybe you still feel, even when it is enabled by all social networks, that it would be a political statement and it's a place that you don't want to go. Maybe you feel your customers would object to that. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Good morning. Who's this? Who's this? Somebody who's drinking Barry. Oh, Laura. Barry's tea. I've had 2 cups of Barry's tea today. We could start a war amongst our Irish followers about Barry's versus Lions, couldn't we? I'm drinking Barry's. Barry's is my thing. Barry's loose leaf, by the way. Welcome to the show, Laura. I'd love to hear what you think about pronouns for businesses.
Hi, I'm Kyra Fingleton from Glamping Under the Stars, and you're watching The Digital Coffee with Amanda Webb.
You may remember earlier this year that WhatsApp started pushing a new privacy policy. This little window would have appeared on your WhatsApp profile and it would have said, please agree to our new privacy policy. And you know what? A lot of people didn't, because this privacy policy was going to allow some data to be shared with Facebook, because of course Facebook owned WhatsApp, and people were not happy. People were leaving. They were saying, I'm not using that. I'm going to this other network instead. Okay, so that happened. WhatsApp pulled back and had a little think. Now, the reason that this privacy update exists is because they want to add some new features for businesses on WhatsApp to do with shopping and messaging. And there's a whole lot of new things that could be interesting and good for your business. So now they're having another go. But this time, they're going to force you. So you will see, I agreed to it already. Sure, I'm a marketer. I do all that stuff. But you will see, if you haven't agreed to the privacy policy, it started popping up again. The window started popping up again, and you can keep closing it and keep closing it. Eventually, it's going to become what they call a persistent message. Now, I don't know if that means this is going to stay on the screen or it's just going to constantly pop up. I don't know what persistent means. When that happens, you will soon see some limitations on your WhatsApp account if you don't agree to it. Firstly, you won't be able to access your chats, you won't be able to make calls, but if you have notifications enabled, you will be able to access chats from notifications. So if somebody sends you a message, you'll be able to click that notification to get into the chat and reply, and you'll be able to receive calls. If you still don't say yes to the privacy policy, then they're not going to close your account, but basically you won't even get that. You won't be able to functionally use WhatsApp at all. So they are forcing your hand. What do I think? I think WhatsApp could be an incredible business tool. I like the fact that it's end-to-end encrypted, which makes it pretty secure from a Facebook to user point of view. You know, there are things on your phone that could compromise it, but I do think it's quite good. If you decided to abandon WhatsApp because of this, because you don't want to accept their privacy policy and go to one of the other channels, are your friends and family going to follow you? And that's the big question, isn't it, really? I know that my tech, not so tech savvy family use WhatsApp. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to get them to move to Signal if that was what was decided. So it's an interesting one. They are definitely forcing our hand. Laura is on Team Barry, Team Barry's. So for those of you watching in the UK, which I know there's always a few, you have no idea what we're talking about. But let's just put it this way. Barry's tea is better than Lion's tea, and that is all you need to know.
Hi, I'm Charlie Lawrence and you're watching The Digital Coffee with Amanda Webb.
Social media tipping has really become a thing, hasn't it? You know, I know a lot of creators were using things like Patreon, where you could sign up and get extra content if you subscribed. But I suppose tipping is more that one-off thing. You know, live streams will allow this, YouTube will allow it, Twitch will allow it. I don't have enough live stream viewers to enable a tip jar. Why? And now Twitter is adding or testing this tip jar function within Twitter itself. So if you go to somebody who has a tip jar function enabled, which is a small select number of users at the moment, you'll be able to send them a payment via PayPal and some other different things. Now, I talk about business. So why am I talking about tip jar and tipping? I suppose as a business, we create a lot of content and that should all be part of our funnel to drive customers. But there are always going to be people who view our content who will never become customers. They're not part of our target market. Tip jar or tipping is a way for those people to say, yeah, I appreciate your content. So in the past, we've had to say, use this service, like, you know, buy me a coffee. And one person was pointing out to me earlier this week that actually, you know, it's going to be a lot easier if your existing audience are on Twitter to just say, if you enjoy this content, please tip me on Twitter. So I do think there is an opportunity here. I don't think it's going to be a big income for businesses, but it's a nice little bit of side income that you will be able to get from your existing content. So for example, I don't have tip jar because I probably wouldn't say this if I did, but if you enjoyed the digital coffee, I could say, well, tip me on Twitter. It's an interesting concept. I can see we've got a comment from Deirdre. RE pronouns. Most people won't notice they're not presented with the idea in their everyday. For others who do live a life that notice he, she, they as appropriate will look inclusive. Yeah, so I think in most cases you're going to want to use pronouns. And I think the whole point of this and the tech companies buying into this is it will be normalized. More people will start seeing it and start using it, and hopefully less people will complain. Evelyn's saying it's a cool concept. Is that the tip jar? Laura says, I wanted to change to another messaging app, but so many friends, family are on WhatsApp. Oh, I can't see your whole comment because all my buttons are going it. It's all across my face. They never got them all across. I was aware of the privacy changes. Don't remember seeing a notification myself yet. I'm not on the general non-marketing. I'm not sure the general non-marketing public are aware of it or what it means, or I think it will be widely ignored. I think you're right. I think most people will just see there's a privacy update, yeah, I'm going with that. But there is a hardcore of WhatsApp users that have been using it since before it was bought by Facebook. And I think those users are the problem. Apparently they were hemorrhaging users. So that would have been general public as well as, the people that would be vigilant about their privacy. I'm thinking about the people I know that are weakly or vaguely trying to protect their privacy may have said no. So this extra prompt and this extra forcing of your hand actually could get more people to use it. It's a good point. Thanks, Laura. I've got to switch hands and try and remember what button to press. Bear with me.
Hello, this is Rob Charles, the voice of Mike on Forever FM on Peter Kay's Car Share. BAFTA award winning, I've got to say, but I've not seen the BAFTA yet. Anyway, you're watching The Digital Coffee with Amanda Webb. Enjoy. I'm on tea. Shh.
Instagram is having what I can only call a moment about sharing on Instagram. As you're probably aware, the only way to legitimately share a post on Instagram is to share it into your story. That's it. All those other apps and tools that you can use, there's a whole lot of red tape that you should probably go through before you use them. I don't recommend you use any of those resharing tools. So the only legit way to do it is that, share it into your story. But it seems that Instagram aren't a fan of this, because I remember a while back, there was this rumor going around, probably propagated by Instagram itself, saying that they were going to try and restrict sharing into stories. I've wondered why this might be, because if this is the only sharing we could do, why would they restrict it? And I'm imagining maybe there are a lot of people just sharing posts into stories and not creating stories that keep people engaged. And that could be the reason. I don't really know. But anyway, seems that Instagram aren't a big fan of sharing into stories. So after they're not going to restrict that. So then they decided, well, actually, we'll just put a notification at the top when something is shared. Now they're testing something called the Reshare sticker, which means instead of going to something you see in your feed and sharing it into your Instagram story, you'll actually need to add a sticker to your Instagram story. And when you add that sticker to your Instagram story, you will have the option to share a post either that you have saved from your grid, so they seem to be okay about you sharing your own posts, or a post that you have liked. So it won't be the case if you can scroll through and just share lots of posts into your stories. Now, this is interesting because I do like a lot of posts on Instagram. If I'm on Instagram, you'll know because I'm going through and I'm liking everything that I see. But it does add a little bit of friction. So I guess Instagram are hoping that this will just cut down on the number of shared posts this way. Still can't work out why. Maybe it's because they don't want people from stories then leaving stories to go into the feed. I don't know, but they definitely don't like it.
Hi, I'm Catherine Mason and you're watching Digital Coffee with Amanda Webb.
I just missed this story in last week's live show because it had just emerged that Twitter have changed the way that they crop images on Twitter on mobile. So there was a problem before, and there still is on desktop, to be honest, that if you share an image, if you put an image in your tweet, it would make kind of a little horizontal thing and it would crop it. And they tried all sorts of AI to make sure that the crop was good, but you'd still just get a bit of somebody's chin or a finger or just something really bizarre cropped, which wasn't really making people want to look at your tweet or capture attention. But they have now changed this on mobile devices for now. And on mobile devices, you will now be able to share a larger image and it won't get cropped in the feed. So the ratio that you will be able to share is images with 2:1 or 3:4 aspect ratios are going to show in full. So you can see the difference there. You're just seeing a line go through the middle of the image, not enticing at all. When you see that, is that a weird bird? that's going to capture your attention. I think this is interesting because it wasn't so long ago. Well, maybe it was. I'm remembering where I was when it happened, but it wasn't so long ago that you didn't see images on Twitter at all. Twitter is still a very text-based network. It's not about images, but obviously they want some more of that Instagram action. So as a business, it's definitely worth, I wouldn't be trying to max it out, because honestly, if I have to scroll through too many images that are promoting your blog with loads of words on the top, I'm probably going to unfollow or hide your posts. But I do think this will draw more attention to your content on Twitter. Hooray for Twitter, says Evelyn. And Lee says, images and image sizes on all social platforms do my head in. Try to remember who does what where. You know what, Lee? I usually just go for a square as a default. You know, I use Canva Pro. If you use Canva Pro, you can resize everything. But I think, square is going to work on most social networks. But actually now with Twitter going this way, you could go to the slight vertical format, which works well on Facebook and Instagram. But hey, that's a whole other day's worth of chat. Laura says she's really delighted with the Twitter crop news. It really does make a difference. It makes your feed more interesting when you're scrolling through on mobile. Well, that is all from me for this week. I will be back, same bat time, same bat place next week. Have a great week.